Okay, this is how you do the worksheet for painting. First, you're going to need paint. Watch your neighbor, ask your neighbor about how to get paint in the classroom. This is more than I need. So these are about the size of a nickel. Don't grab more than that. We're not painting a lot, so you don't need a whole lot. I also have a cup of water, and I have a paper towel. So the worksheet says fill in just the primary colors and secondary colors or wedges using only primary color paints plus black and white. If you finish early, try painting in the smaller tertiary wedges, which are these small ones here. That will be extra credit. This is being graded on neatness and on color mixing. So here's the guide here. The outer ring of the wedges is going to be the shade, the middle is going to be the pure hue, and the tiny little triangle in the center is going to be the tint. So I'm going to start with red. I'm not grabbing a lot of paint, and I'm going to fill in this middle part of this wedge. And I could have started anywhere, but I'm starting here at the top. One way to keep your painting neat, to keep your edges straight, is to keep your hand in contact with the table at all times. It stabilizes the muscles in your hand a lot. Well, it's easier because you're not having to stabilize your whole arm. If I'm holding my arm up and trying to paint this area, I'm having to stabilize every single muscle from my shoulder down to my fingers, and that's a lot. And I'll get tired and my hand will start shaking. If I just keep my hand on the table, I can pull my brush toward me and get really nice, straight, clean edges when I paint. Keeping my hand on the table helps me stabilize just my fingers, and that's all I need to stabilize. So I got my red wedge painted. I'm going to do the tint. I've got red on my brush, and one of my rules, and this is not a rule in the sense of like, break rules, it's a guide, let's say that, is to always add the dark paint into the lighter paint. Darker paint will change lighter paint quicker than if I took the lighter paint and tried to mix it into the darker paint. This little bit of paint on my brush is plenty to turn a little side of this white paint into pink. And I don't need a lot because I'm only painting this tiny wedge right here. I didn't put my brush into the entire little puddle of white because I need it for later areas of, or for other areas of my wheel. And I'm going to rotate my paper around a lot because, like I said, I like to pull paint toward me instead of pushing it because that makes the bristles spread out. This is just a way that I've learned how to paint that is easy. You can find it your own way. There are plenty of different types of brushes. I happen to like this one for this assignment that has a flat edge. You're going to find the brush that you work with best. It might be different than the one the person next to you is using, but that's their style and this is your style. So this is all about experimentation and getting comfortable with painting. I'm now going to wash my brush because I need to get rid of that white off my brush. So I'm just scrubbing it against the bottom of the cup, and then I'm going to rub it against the paper because I want to make sure I get all of that water out. The water will thin out the paint and it'll make this a lot thinner and transparent, and I don't want that. So I'm going to take a little bit of this black here, not a whole lot, that much, and I'm going to mix it into a side of the red. And why I'm not using the entire red, again, is same as the white. I need the red for other things later on. All right, there we go. I have darkened my red to a shade of red, and now I can paint this up here. All right, I'm not gonna do the whole thing because I don't want to waste your time. All right, so I'm gonna wash my brush, dry it out, and now that I've put red in this wedge, yellow and green can only go in either of these two wedges because the way the color wheel is drawn, so this is upside down to what I've just done. Red's here, yellow, blue It has to go in one of these two spots. So let's do yellow. I'm gonna grab a little yellow and I'm going to paint this wedge over here. And I could have done this one over here, it doesn't really matter. And painting that in. I'm not gonna do the shades or tints because again, I don't wanna waste too much time and make this video too long. There we go. I'm gonna clean my brush, dry it out, and then blue. And that's gonna go in this spot right here because it can only go in this spot because the color wheel has to be in order and it's always in the same order. It can rotate. Red doesn't always have to be at the top. That could have been purple, or green or orange or yellow, it doesn't matter. There we go. So now that I have my primaries painted in here, I want to do the secondaries. And because I'm only giving you access to primary colors, you have to create them. So in this case, I need to make green. I have blue on my brush, so I'm going to take the blue and put it into the yellow to make green, because that's how you make green. Again, pulling it off to the side so I can keep that yellow clean for other color mixing that I'm going to do. Grab a little bit more blue because it got a little too yellow. There we go. That's a good green. And green lives between blue and yellow because blue and yellow is how you make green. The color wheel tells you its secrets. It tells you how to make colors. And again, once I make the green, I'd make more of it so that I can make my shade and tint out of that green I created here. I wouldn't make a tiny bit, I'd make a lot more. Clean my brush. And now I'm gonna make orange. Orange lives between red and yellow, so that must mean red and yellow mixed together make orange. So I'm gonna take some red because it's darker than yellow. I'm gonna mix it into the side of this yellow here. And when you're doing the secondaries, you have a little more wiggle room when it comes to, is this orange enough, or is it too yellow, or is it too red? When you start doing the tertiaries, you have to get a little more fussy, finicky, precise. I'll show you in a second what I mean. So here's a nice orange. And let's say that I am going to do the tertiary colors. I need to make red orange. So that means I need to add more red into the orange I just created. So I'm going to take this little red here, add it into the puddle I just created to make orange. And it's going to look very close to red. It's going to look very close to orange, but it is darker than orange. And it is not as red as red. So that's a little messy. I'm rushing. So there we go. There's a difference between this color, that color, and this color. But they're very similar because they all have the same two main colors in it, which is red and yellow. Lastly, I'm going to do purple, and this is the one that's going to look really weird because it is very dark. The purple that comes out of the bottle is very different than the purple that you create mixing red and yellow. I'm sorry, red and blue. On camera, it's probably going to look very, very black. Like this is black here. That's going to look very similar, I'm sure, on camera, but it is not black. It's very, very dark purple. And there we go. So that's how you create your secondary colors with your primary paints and how you're going to fill out this entire worksheet. So, like I said, the instructions at the bottom tell you that the primaries and secondaries are the mandatory, or they are mandatory for this assignment. So this is what your wheel looks like when it's finished for full credit. You have empty wedges in the middle, that's fine. If you want to paint those, that is extra credit. So you can get a lot more of extra credit on this assignment by filling in the smaller tertiary wedges. If you only fill in a couple, that's fine. You get points for that. But this is full extra credit. This is full regular credit. And then ask your table mates, how do you clean up your brush, your paint, and your cup? And that's it.